This is Sarah Severini.
This is Kyle Bartus.
This is Alenny Santana.
And this is our podcast on Persepolis. So going into it, I didn't know what I would think of the book. Having never read a graphic novel before, I didn't really think I would enjoy it that much. But at the same time, I'm usually very open to new books, and I try not to judge a book by its cover. So I've also read portions of it before from another college class. So I didn't know what I was going to think of it, really.
So, coming from someone who has read graphic novels in the past, I was a little bit, I had a little bit of hope for this book, but I was also a little bit skeptical because I have read a couple of stories before that have the same sort of story of like a coming to a different civilization or a different society and having to adjust to it. So I was a little bit skeptical coming into this story, and I ended up liking it though.
For me, I have read graphic novels before, but I expected this book to be a regular novel, not a graphic one. Because my entirety of my life, I always read like regular books in middle school and high school. So it was interesting to see it. Because I read the introduction, I was like, this seems like a regular book. But I flipped a few pages, I'm like, oh, it's actually a graphic novel. This is interesting.
I kind of like the idea that it was a memoir too, with a comic. I thought it was really fun to get to see it come to life as well. And my general opinion of it was that I thoroughly enjoyed it, and all I could think about while reading it was looking forward to watching the movie. I don't know why I was so excited, but it's all I talked about for a couple days, so I was really looking forward to watching the movie to see the characters come to life even more than they already have.
So me personally, even after reading this book, I didn't really even have to watch the movie because I enjoyed the novel so much.
Me too.
Because I felt that I felt that Marianne's character alone was very, very interesting, and honestly, it's sometimes comedic to the point where I really did enjoy this novel. So,
back to what he was saying is that I enjoyed Marianne's character. I thought there were some scenes which was really hilarious, and then I kept cracking up while I was reading. Well, my favorite part was when, like, she came out of her suicide depression phase. Well, like, I was happy when she came out of it because it was, like, it hurts to see someone like that, like, so sad and hurt, like, to the point where they want to kill themselves. So it was happy. I was happy to see it when she comes back, when she's being happy in the book. In the movie, we're gonna talk about that later.
I liked Marianne's grandma the most because it's gonna be weird, but I compare her to my grandmother. The language that she used sounds just like my grandma, and I thought it was really funny to see my grandma as a book character because I was like, wow, me and Marianne are literally the same person with our very feisty grandmothers who are ready to come at us anytime that she needs to. And my favorite part of that was, her talking to Marianne. I thought it was very sweet because while she could have that feisty character side to her, she also knew what she was talking about when she had to. But my favorite part as a whole was just the entirety of her in Australia. I know that's a really big part to love, but just seeing her grow and everything that she went through there, especially the end when she changed herself, it was really interesting to me to watch. I don't know, I just thought it was really interesting.
Wasn't it Austria?
Austria. I said Australia. Austria.
Yes. My favorite part, and I know it sounds a little cliche, but it's when Marianne finally takes responsibility and finally accepts who she is, the fact that she's Iranian. It really shows that, she's, no matter how much she tries to hide it, she's still proud of who she is, and her accepting that publicly, I really think takes guts. So
It does.
I feel like that would be my favorite part because a lot of people can relate to that in some way, so it adds some realism to the book.
My favorite part with some parts where like Marianne will give like an attitude to some of the adult figures. Personally, I find it hilarious. Well, I do find it hilarious, yes, but in some cases, I found it similar to being like my brother because he does it too. Like he'll have an attitude towards adult figures, so it's like a bittersweet moment. So it's funny, but just like, oh, this is what I feel my brother. I don't know how I feel about this.
With Marianne's parents, I like them both. I don't know how I felt about her mom, but I really, really liked her dad. I liked the fact that she had that mature relationship with him where he could open up and speak to her, and she understood it, and she listened to him. It was really nice, and I don't know, I appreciated it.
Yeah, going off of what Sarah said with her parents, I feel like her dad was obviously much more open, and he was also a lot more, I guess, accepting. Meanwhile, her mother was always so cautious and so worried for Marianne's future, the fact that she limited her daughter so much. Meanwhile, her father was just enabling her creative side to keep going.
Okay, going back to what you two said, my favorite character would have been Marjan's uncle. Because like when he came in, like Marjan like spent so much time with him. They were talking about the war and stuff, and like it hurted when he died. I was like, oh my god, that's like one of my favorite characters, and they killed him off like that. Now going into Persepolis, previous class discussions we talked about what it meant and like what it means to the book. Obviously, its ancient origins mean. Obviously, it means like Persepolis, like the ancient city of Persia. And I feel like the author chose Persepolis because it talks about, like, it's changing based on when it was just Persia. And now we're here in modern Iran, where in Marjan's story, where everything is, like, going crazy with the war. And even after the post-war, it's still, like, not as fixed. Like, it's still ruined. Like, so many people died for no reason, according to the book.
Comparing it to the movie, I thought that it stuck pretty well. I do know that it skipped around a little bit only because it had to in order to keep the movie flowing smoothly. But I didn't think I liked how they compared God from the book and the movie. He seemed to be a much more important part of Marianne's life in the book, and they seemed to kind of brush over it like they brushed over a lot of other things. And they also started the book with Marianne in color and from the present instead of starting from when she was 10 years old in school, which I thought was weird and interesting. It bothered me a little bit.
Yeah, kind of working off what Sarah said, the chronological order and the fact that it doesn't really play that much into the movie because it's basically the giant flashback is mostly the plot of the movie. I kind of didn't like how they did that. I liked how in the novel it was more straightforward. It was fluent with its storytelling. So having to keep viewing it as a flashback and then moving back to Marianne in the present, it's kind of confusing at sometimes. I mean, I didn't lose my place, but I feel like some other viewers could have lost their place.
Personally, when I watched the movie, it was actually not that bad. Like, the one thing that kind of bothered me was that it was kind of broad on some topics. Like, back to what Sarah was saying about God. In the beginning chapters of the book, God plays an important part because Marjan wanted to be like an oracle to God. I think it was an oracle.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it was an oracle. And then like for the movie, God just showed up at the end, like near the end of the movie, where Marjan was about to commit suicide. So that fell a little bit off. And there were a bit of like differences between the movie and certain scenes. But you guys want to jump in and talk about it? Or?
There were a lot of differences, and I know sometimes it has to be that way, but there were some things that could have stuck to the original, and like Kyle was saying, if you hadn't read the book, there were a lot of things that could be misunderstood by people, so it's one of those movies, like we discussed in class too, where you have to read the book to watch the movie, otherwise it could be really confusing. But there are some other things that you could just get away with. Like, for example, Marianne's character as a whole, she didn't seem as precocious in the movie as she did in the book. She seemed to be more of like a little kid rather than the mature, I want to be a part of the war and everything like that as she was in the book. So.
And I completely agree with that, honestly, because going back to when she was in Austria in the movie and the fact that they didn't really touch upon her living situations, like the fact that her mom's best friend, the first people that she lived with when she was in Austria, they spent about maybe 10 seconds that she was with them. They immediately just skipped over that part. Meanwhile, later in the book, she was talking about how she couldn't go back to them, and she was explaining why, and you obviously knew where to go with in the novel. But in the movie, you had no idea what actually happened. So therefore, you're kind of left in the dark about that. So it's multiple parts of the movie where you see that it kind of left you without knowledge of what happened or what could have happened.
Yeah, going back to that, like during that whole like montage of that, like in the book, her mother comes to visit her.
Oh yeah, they skipped over that part entirely.
Yeah, while Marjan was living with like the eight gay guys were homosexuals, whatever is the proper term. Like they skipped over that, and I'm like, that's like one of like Marjan's key like character moments, because like she's like, obviously she's in Austria, different country, being discriminated against. Like she wants someone there by her side. Like in the book, her mom shows up and helps her, but in the movie, it seemed like she was struggling all by herself with no type of assistance until she comes home to her parents. Mm-hmm. So that kind of like irked me a bit. Cause it's like, wow, you took in a nice character development moment, but you just took it away.
And with the movie in general, like the fact going between French and English, I appreciated it more in French and I thought it was more authentic. But at the same time, I'm that person that will watch it in English anyway just because I like it better. I think that they should have paid more attention to the people that they hired because seeing only the women have the accents and the men not. For example, like her father, he was a full American, everything American, and it was so strange to hear because it's definitely not what I was expecting. So they should have paid more attention to who they were hiring, but I did like hearing the French better, but like paying attention in the English better. I have mixed opinions on it.
Obviously the English is easier for me to understand, but I also agree, and I think that having in French, even though it was with the subtitles, I think it was better overall because obviously the movie was made for people who speak French, so it was definitely easier to see where the book was coming from, the movie was coming from originally. So I feel like I appreciated it more in that way, just because it doesn't feel out of place, or it doesn't feel like it wasn't meant for someone in English to watch.
For me, I'm used to reading shows that have subtitles, whether it's like cartoons or even like the Netflix captions on Netflix. So I'm just used to it. But like with the French version, they had more emotion to it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but with like the English version, it was like dead.
Mm-hmm.
The one difference I can think of is when Marjan's calling her dad, asking her to go home. Like in the French version, she sounds really upset, like on the verge of crying. Yet in the English version, she sounds like she's dead, like monotone. I'm like
kind of bland. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like what's going on here? Like you're.
I think overall they were both really nice. I really, really liked the book. I really, really liked the movie. And I think it was a really nice book to start with. And I would definitely read it again, honestly, just because I'm a bookworm. So.
I also liked the book. I feel like the movie could have touched on a few more topics, but it was still good nonetheless. I definitely did like the novel, though. I was very, very surprised by it, and I would definitely read it again.
For me, I did enjoy the book a lot. The movie was good too, but I wish they went in depth in some scenes. But other than that, I liked it. Like when he first, like he didn't, when he told us, like when he first assigned us to read the first 70 or 71 pages, I was already on like page 246. Like literally within that first week, because I couldn't sleep one night. I kept reading it. I'm like, I love this book. Like I can't put it down, but I have to go to sleep. So.
And that's the Persepolis Podcast. Bye!
Later!